We have breaking news. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk has been killed after being shot in the neck during an outdoor rally on the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. We have the latest confirmed information in this special breaking edition of
Charlie Kirk's assassination at Utah Valley University has left the entire nation in a state of disbelief and outrage. What started out as an ordinary speaking event for one of the most recognizable and polarizing.
Breaking details are still coming in on this story, but President Donald Trump just said that Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist, is dead after he was shot at an event today outside Salt Lake City in Orem, Utah. Here's the post on Truth Social the president put out, writing that the great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. Now, Charlie Kirk was a conservative activist, very active on social media, and a major supporter of Donald Trump. He became one of the young faces of the MAGA movement, and he was one of the founders of Turning Point USA, a major political nonprofit that advocated for conservative causes. Kirk had been on his American comeback tour. He was going to colleges across the country and speaking on campus. And one of those stops today at Utah Valley University. It's in Orem, Utah. It's about 45 minutes south of Salt Lake. And it's a school of about 45,000 kids, and thousands of people were listening to Kirk speak at the time that he was shot. Now, at the time of this reporting, police say a suspect is still on the loose. Originally, there was a campus alert that went out saying that there was a suspect in custody. Then you had videos circulating on social media of an older man being detained. It is unclear what the circumstances were around that, but it is being reported that man is not the shooter who killed Charlie Kirk. A school spokesperson told the New York Times that a single shot was fired at Kirk from a building on campus about 200 yards away from where Kirk was seated. According to the school as well, Kirk was taken by his security team off of campus. Now, there is video circulating on social media of the shooting and of the moment that Charlie Kirk was killed. And we cannot show you that video. It is just too graphic to show it here. It is incredibly disturbing, but in that video, you can see that Kirk is hit. He reacts to being shot, falling out of his chair. You can hear that single gunshot being fired. You also see the bullet hit Kirk in the video, and you see blood leave his body. Then there's just chaos of the thousands of students and people who came to hear him speak, running for safety. Now, one of our employees here at Law and Crime has a family member who goes to Utah Valley University, and here are the text messages that they sent to each other in the moments after this shooting. You can see that she says that she's okay. Quote, "I'm hiding right now. I love you." She explained there was a shooting and that she was okay, but she also said that the school was now on lockdown and that she was in hiding with other people. Earlier today, right as this news was breaking, I spoke to retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt. We spoke before the news broke that Kirk was dead. And at the time, it was being reported that a shooter was in custody. And we talked a lot about what this investigation will look like going forward and what charges a shooter, if and when they're arrested, what they could face. Here's our conversation. Joining us now is retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt. Always great to have you on Law and Crime, and thanks for being with us as so much information is developing right now. We know that there are students that are in lockdown right now on this campus. For those who are responding to this now in law enforcement, what are they doing at this point in the response?
Well, from what I understand online, they may have already have a suspect in custody.
Conservative commentators in America turned into a nightmare that no one could have possibly anticipated. The campus was buzzing that morning, students were gathering, cameras were being set up, and security was in place. Kirk had been booked to speak about the state of higher education, freedom of speech, and the future of America's youth, topics he's become known for passionately addressing. Supporters lined up early, waiting for a chance to hear him speak in person. Critics, as always, were also present, ready to protest. But no one, not the university officials, not the police, not even Kirk himself, could have foreseen that this day would end in tragedy so dark that it would send shockwaves across the entire country. According to those who were inside the auditorium, the atmosphere before Kirk took the stage was charged but not hostile. Some protesters held signs outside, chanting and waving banners. but the event itself was largely under control. The moment Kirk walked into the room, however, everything shifted. His presence has always been polarizing to his fans.
But one of the big problems when you have a shooting in an outdoor venue is you have self-deployment and lots of law enforcement showing up to the scene and basically having to be organized. So most likely the Utah State Police already set up a command post to bring the people to the one spot where they can organize their crime scene investigators, and then they're going to basically span out, start interviewing people, and determine whether he's a lone shooter or there's more people involved in a conspiracy.
And that was going to be my next question is the, and I know law enforcement trains for this, but there's just that chaos of so many people that were in this like college quad, they're running. This one person, it appears, we don't know his identity at this point, is in custody. How do you make sure in all of that chaos that there isn't someone else who is part of this?
Well, you really can't. When you have, it looks to be about 5,000 to 10,000 people running in all different directions. The only thing you do is you got to start at the source, which is the shooter. They have him immediately identified. It looks like he may have made the shot from within the crowd, and the people, probably it's going to come out that people around him took him into custody, so to speak, or held him. But then the next step would be to do a logical investigation in terms of interviewing him, get his cell phone, do some cell phone analytics, and then talk to the people around there, and then frankly to determine if there is somebody that financed him or put him up to this, or if he's just a lone shooter.
So all of this is just for people who are watching this. I mean, this story broke probably for us within the last 10 or 15 minutes, so it's really within the hour. It appears that this has happened. How quickly do you start asking questions of that suspect?
Well, they're going to have to be careful because you don't want to prompt him to lawyer up, so to speak, even though that is his right. You want to get some professionals there, or get him in a car, get him aside, and basically start talking to him immediately to get a confession, so to speak. He's in custody, so it'll be an interrogation, so he has to be read his Miranda rights. And basically the most important thing for them to find out is was he alone, or is there more people? From the pictures online, if that indeed is the suspect, he looked to be about 65 to 70, white male, older gentleman. So I suspect he's a lone shooter, and this has been something that's brewing within him for a long time, and then they're gonna find all those things out.
Because I also think too, because I saw that same picture, and we're not showing it at this point because we don't know officially if this is the person. And we've seen in some cases, I remember, I think the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade shooting, that there was someone who actually wasn't arrested for it. So that picture is going around on social media. And if he is the person, I think for law enforcement, it would be a challenge where here he is on the ground and you have people who you want to almost get away so they aren't. I could understand they would be really angry at this person and would want to go at him, and you want to make sure you have your suspect. Then at the same time, these could be witnesses. How do you handle the chaos of that moment?
Well, the first thing is to ensure there is no chaos. So they're going to write you in lots of support. More officers are going to, uniform officers are going to get in there. They're going to do crowd control, and then they're going to interview the people that most likely put their hands on him or were around him, because they're going to be around, because ultimately it's kind of just common sense. They're going to say, hey, does anybody know what happened? And being that event is very partisan, there's going to be people that are going to be happy to talk and happy to cooperate.
He is a truth teller, someone who dares to say what others are too afraid to say. To his critics, he is dangerous, a provocateur, someone who pushes boundaries too far. This tension is what has made every single one of his events headline-worthy, but it is also what made this particular day so combustible. Kirk began his talk with his usual energy, addressing the crowd directly, speaking on issues that drew applause from some and murmurs of disapproval from others. The cameras were rolling, the lights were bright, and everything seemed to be going according to plan. But then it happened. Witnesses recall a moment of complete confusion, an interruption that no one at first understood. Some say they heard shouting, others said they saw movement near the front rows, and within seconds, chaos erupted. There was screaming, people ducked under chairs, security rushed toward the stage, and Kirk himself was quickly surrounded. What happened next was so fast and so shocking that it felt unreal, and in that horrifying instant, The entire room realized that something far worse than a heckler or protest disruption had taken place. Charlie Kirk had been targeted, and the attack was deliberate.
With law enforcement, and then from there you just build on that, because most times when people go to events like this, they don't go alone, they go with a couple of friends, and so somebody's going to know somebody who saw something, and then from there you're just going to do the investigation.
There's pictures, images, videos circulating on social media of the moment that Charlie Kirk was shot. It appears he was shot in the neck. According to the school, and an alert that it was a single gunshot from the crowd, from a suspect now believed to be in custody. There's probably about 5,000 people, let's say, who were watching this speech. I think it was the Q&A session, for whether it's private security that's there or police that are there. I mean, how do you actually scan a crowd to try and spot someone who might be armed and trying to do something like this?
Well, I mean, you're common sense. You're going to go to the sound and then the muzzle flash or the smoke, and so it most likely it appears that if he is the guy that did it, there was people around him who saw him pull out the long rifle or whatever, because it doesn't look like it was a shot from a handgun, and they frankly detained him, and then from there law enforcement will come in and do their investigation.
And for these political events, I mean, to your point, I mean, Turning Point, it's a very partisan group, conservative politics. This is not a rock concert. This is a political rally that was going on. For law enforcement in the area, what is the preparation like in the days leading up to it? And I know he's on tour right now, so he's been at a lot of different colleges. But even in the days leading up to this speech, or the speech I think he was going to be in Colorado next, what is the preparation like ahead of an event where you know it's going to be very emotionally charged?
Well, something like this, I mean, technically he's not a protectee like the president or somebody else. So it's going to be up to individually each department and how they want to handle it. They're going to get from the Utah or from the school the agenda, and to see when he's there, when he's coming in, and then they'll probably do some scanning of social media to see if there's any threats or anything out there. And then Charlie Kirk, he has his own security staff, hopefully, that they're going to be doing some threat assessments to see if there's any stalkers, anybody that's following him around. But the problem with an event like that is law enforcement doesn't have the resources to set up a perimeter and scan people through a metal detector like they would with the Secret Service. So, and even then, obviously, Donald Trump was shot. So these events now, it's looking like we're kind of moving into an era of political assassinations. Actually, we've already moved into that era, and I fear for all of these public figures, especially on the right side of what is coming down the pipe.
Because I think for these events, and it's, to your point, you can't scan every single person coming through in some of these outdoor venues. And like we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania with President Trump, there can be breakdowns in the security. But I also think of, private security teams, the cost of all of that leading up to it. I guess how, and I know that this is a question that we won't be able to solve right here, but at this point where people are very outspoken, it's their right, even if you disagree with their political beliefs, to hold these events and hold them peacefully. How do we do these events, but then at the same time, not have situations like this where someone who is armed and angry can show up and do something?
Indoor events, yeah, you're going to have to use.
People scrambled for the exits as guards tried to secure the scene, but it was too late. By the time law enforcement arrived and paramedics rushed in, the damage was done. News broke within minutes that Kirk had been fatally attacked, and from that point forward, the entire world was watching. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Social media platforms lit up like wildfire. Hashtags about Charlie Kirk trended globally within the hour. Supporters were heartbroken and enraged, demanding justice and answers. Critics, too, expressed shock, with many acknowledging that regardless of political differences, no one should ever be subjected to this kind of violence. Utah Valley University became the center of a media frenzy. Reporters flooded the campus, students were questioned, and security footage was pulled for review. The FBI quickly became involved, treating the incident as a high-profile assassination, given Kirk's political prominence. And while authorities initially withheld details about the suspect
I was going to tell you about an arrest being made in the murder of Charlie Kirk, but that ended up not happening. A person of interest was taken into custody and questioned, but then released. And this is actually the second false start in the case in just a matter of hours. Charlie Kirk was a conservative activist who woke up this morning and traveled to the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem to speak to college students. It was something that Kirk loved to do. He was the founder of Turning Point USA, and he had done this thousands of times before. Take a look. Kirk then took his seat under a tent and started to speak to the students, taking questions. It was 20 minutes into the event, around 12:20 Mountain Time, when someone in the crowd asked a question about gun violence, and at that very moment, the assassin fired. Kirk was hit in the neck. I'm not going to show the video to you. It's horrific. This 31-year-old husband and father of 2 young children started to bleed out immediately. Students ducked in horror, screaming. Kirk's bodyguards rushed him into an SUV in the hope of saving his life, and he was taken to the hospital, but nothing could be done. A man was detained, and it appeared a suspect was in custody immediately, but then that person was released. Then later, FBI Director Kash Patel tweeted, "The subject for the horrific shooting today that took the life of Charlie Kirk is now in custody. Thank you to the local and state authorities in Utah for your partnership with the FBI. We will provide updates when able." But guess what? Patel's information did not pan out. Patel later tweeted, "The subject in custody has been released after an interrogation by law enforcement. Our investigation continues, and we will continue to release information in interest of transparency." So the search for the shooter continues. Charlie Kirk leaves behind a wife, Erica, and 2 young children. Earlier this year, Erica Kirk posted a video on TikTok thanking Charlie for, quote, "being my love story." To discuss this just horrific turn of events, I would like to bring in Bob McEwen. He is a friend of Charlie Kirk's, and he is also a former congressman from the state of Ohio and a board member at Turning Point USA. Bob, first and foremost, my condolences go out to you and everybody at Turning Point and Charlie Kirk's family. How are you doing upon hearing of this news that he's been assassinated? He was murdered.
That's exactly correct. He really was. He gave his life. He impacted the nation more than anyone his age ever. He's like the president. There's no 2 of them. And it's hard to grasp where we are. He was winsome. He spoke truth. He had nothing to fear. He would just go on a college campus and sit in a chair and just share truth about life, liberty, and the right to pursue happiness, and a firm commitment.
Suspects involved. Leaks began to surface almost immediately, leaks that painted an even more disturbing picture than anyone expected. According to insiders, Kirk had been receiving threats leading up to this event. Some of these threats were public, posted online in comments and forums. Others were more private, reportedly sent directly to Kirk and his team. His security detail had been warned about the possibility of an attempt on his life, but no one anticipated that it would happen so quickly, so brazenly, and in such a public place. The attack has reignited a fierce debate about the state of political discourse in America, whether the atmosphere has become so toxic that violence was inevitable. To many, Kirk's death is proof that the country is reaching a dangerous breaking point. To others, it is a chilling warning that no public figure is truly safe. In the days following the assassination, speculation grew out of control. Some claimed the attack was politically motivated, that this was an attempt to silence Kirk and everything he stood for. Others floated conspiracy theories, suggesting there may have been multiple people involved or that this was part of a larger coordinated effort. The authorities have been careful about what they release, only confirming that the attack was
commitment to his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He was uncompromising, which then knew that the haters would come after him. He had security, but we hoped that this day would never come. And certainly for Erica and the children, I know how upset and distressed I am just to think how they must feel as a horrible few hours that we've endured.
You said that he had security, which obviously was a good thing. But I mean, were there ever threats that he had received? Was he concerned about his safety, especially after what happened with President Trump and Butler, during the campaign? I mean, he's sitting out in these open air venues. Had he ever talked to you about being concerned for his safety or receiving threats?
Yeah, the thing is that truth overcomes error, and error cannot tolerate truth. Error can speak with error, and they can just go on and have white papers and discussions and conferences. But once truth enters the room, they all turn on the truth. They have to only the left burns books, and only the left censors. And so he knew that his life was under threat on a regular basis, just really daily. And we've talked about it. He could never take his children to the grocery store or never walk in the park alone. And Erica signed on to that program, recognizing that preserving the greatest hope in the history of mankind, the United States of America, was a noble calling, and he was willing to make that sacrifice. But as you can see, it was one bullet, a person prepared to take him out, and that assassin, who obviously was a hater, and he had to silence truth, because when Charlie had people talk about these things and they began to logically think, it made a tremendous change. We've always said that young people, you really didn't need to worry about them until after they got married, after they became parents, and after they got a job, that they would all become conservatives eventually. And so just let them talk about socialism and communism and things when they're young. But Charlie didn't believe that. He said, no, let's do it. Let's talk right now. And the shift that's taken place that we've never seen, certainly in any of our lifetimes, that the most conservative demographic is 18 to 25. And there's no small responsibility that he did that across the nation and began to stand up after all of the lies that went on about COVID, and you need to stand so many feet apart, and you can't be there for your parents' funerals, and all these things that the young people began to question. Now, what is that? And when they questioned, he was there with truth, and truth was winning, and that's why they had to take him out.
Where were you when you heard that he had been shot?
Well, I was at my desk, and I got a call from his chief of staff, and mentioned that he had just been shot, and it was in the neck, and he wasn't sure. They had no more information than that, and it was a good 15 to 20 minutes after that it then broke on the news that he had been fired upon, and then we prayed, hopeful that he would survive, because I repeat, there's no two like him. There's no one to take his place, but nevertheless, so I'm reaching out to the staff. Obviously, lives have been upended. That was the goal. And all we can do is we think about what the president went through, and they made 2 attempts to get it
Premeditated, and that they are pursuing every lead. But the silence from officials has only fueled more questions. People want to know who carried this out, why security failed, and whether more attacks could follow. And perhaps the most disturbing question of all, was Kirk specifically targeted because of something he was about to reveal or say that day? Friends and colleagues of Charlie Kirk have spoken out, describing him as a fearless fighter for what he believed in and insisting that his legacy will not be silenced. Turning Point USA, the organization he founded, has vowed to continue its mission despite the tragedy. Vigils have been held across the country, with students and supporters gathering to honor his memory. But at the same time, the anger is building. Prominent figures in politics and media are calling for answers, calling for justice, and warning that if the truth about this assassination is not brought to light, the public's trust in institutions will be shaken even further than it already is. In the hours following the assassination, questions started pouring in. Who was responsible? Was this politically motivated? Was this a lone wolf attacker or something more coordinated? Officials have remained tight-lipped, releasing only minimal information while the investigation continues. But insiders are already hinting at disturbing truths that could blow this entire case wide open. Some are pointing to threats Kirk had received leading up to the event, warning that he was being targeted. Others claim that the atmosphere on campus had been building to a breaking point, with protests intensifying and tensions reaching dangerous levels. The footage from that day, which is now circulating online, is difficult to watch. It shows the moment of panic, the screams, the chaos, and the desperate
him as well. And of course, we'll see who's responsible for it. Our nation was blessed by his service and his commitment to righteousness, as our John Adams said about our Constitution. It was made for a moral and a religious people. It's wholly inadequate to the government of any other. And so when his commitment and our commitment to preserving life, there are those that just that arouses such hatred that we've experienced it today, unfortunately.
This is clearly a political assassination. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was at an event he had hosted hundreds, if not thousands of times on college campuses, and somebody laid in wait to take his life. Do you expect federal charges to come of this? I would think possibly there would be, just because of the political nature of this.
Well, that's what's encouraging, that we do have a Department of Justice that's interested in justice. And while that wouldn't be such a critical point in a state like Utah, where they have common sense, but in places like New York, or the whole idea that they couldn't incarcerate people in North Carolina is why that stabbing took place. We have the same thing in California, and where you don't incarcerate people, that they have what called cashless bail. Cashless bail means that there is no bail. That's like when you steal a car, you can say it's a cashless purchase. So those people are allowed to roam boldly. But in Utah, I think that they would have done a good job. But nevertheless, fortunately, we have a Department of Justice under our current president that will make sure that justice is done. And so he's being prosecuted under the federal law. And under federal law, there is also the death penalty, as the scripture provides.
You gave the toast at Charlie Kirk's wedding. I mean, you were very close to him. You were a Turning Point USA board member. I mean, you'd known him for a really long time. I mean, just talk to me about that relationship.
Well, I repeat, there aren't two people like him. He was a full-time learner. He took 2 hours every day to learn. He began his day faithfully with exercise and time in the scriptures. And then he went to an education of, whether it be on Hillsdale or whatever, reading a book for 2 hours every day. And then he ran a massive organization, $100 million, over 1,000 employees just in the last election. A massive, a lot of people, they say they do a lot of things, but he actually did them. And as a result, I remember, as you know, under the last president, there was this effort to incarcerate anybody that was a conservative. We were at dinner one time. My wife asked that all the people at the table had anyone.
Attempts to save Kirk. People who were in that room say they will never forget the sound, the fear, and the realization that they had just witnessed something that would change history. The university has faced criticism for not providing enough security, though they insist that all proper measures were taken. Investigators are combing through every second of video, every social media post, every possible clue to piece together exactly how this happened. Charlie Kirk's assassination is not just another headline, it is a moment that will be studied, debated, and remembered for years to come. It raises uncomfortable questions about free speech, about the price of being outspoken, and about the future of civil discourse in America. If someone as high-profile and well-protected as Kirk could be taken out in a room full of cameras and security, what does that mean for other public figures, for activists, for anyone who dares to speak their mind in today's climate? This tragedy has sent a chilling message, one that has left millions afraid, angry, and more determined than ever to demand answers. As the investigation continues, all eyes remain on Utah Valley University and on law enforcement agencies tasked with solving this case. Every new detail is being dissected, every theory debated, every revelation fueling more outrage. And while we still do not have the full story, one thing is clear: the assassination of Charlie Kirk was not random. It was not accidental. It was a targeted, deliberate act that has left a deep scar on the nation and has changed the conversation forever. The question now is how America will respond, and whether this tragedy will bring people together in the name of justice, or tear the country apart even further.